Are you someone who often worries about the future? Now imagine you don't have a lot of future left. I mean, just think about it, because this day will come. And I've been talking to people where this is the case, where time is slowly slowing down. But where I hear laughter when I ask them about their future. Yes, in this episode, I would like to tell you about my conversations with the elderly, lovely people and everything I've learned from them about the perspective of time and about life and death. Ladies and gentlemen, it's me again, Anna Jelen, the Time Expert. And I'm your lively reminder to gently remind you that your time is now. Now for what? To live the life you always wanted to live. And for my business and my researches, I always interview people about time. And today, I would like to tell you about my conversations I had with the elderly people. And it's just so touching to hear them talk about time. Now let me start with a funny moment I have experienced. I was invited to a hen party, which means that there are just ladies, and in this case, very elderly women, drinking tea and coffee and talking about life. I didn't know that it would be only ladies, so I took my husband Samuel with me, because we thought we could film some interviews as well. Because we had this fabulous opportunity to visit an old people's home in Sweden. But as I said, we didn't know that it would be a hen party where men aren't really invited. So we stood in this little room, waiting for the people to join us, and one after the other arrived. Some all by themselves, and some with help. But you should have seen the reaction when they saw Samuel, this handsome man. And one was immediately walking a bit taller, and another one came to me, looked at me, pointed to Samuel and said, "This one over there, that is mine. You can have this." And then she gave me a cookie. That's the first point. I am always impressed by the humor these elder generations have. Do you experience this as well? I mean, my grandma, she's always making me laugh. She has this wittiness which makes life so light. And every time I leave her, I feel a bit sad because I'm also leaving this kind of simply laughing and joking around state. Yes, she has the ability to make one's life feel so light-hearted. And then there is also Ella, a good friend of mine, a lady which will be turning 100 years soon. I remember the first time I met her. I asked her, where could I find the bathroom? She looked at me and asked, why? I looked astonished, a bit embarrassed, so I explained, I need to pee. And Ella, staring at me with her serious look, asked, can't you sweat it out? Silence. And then she laughed her head off. Yeah. They have humor, they really do. But now let's dive into some of the questions I am asking these elderly people. Question 1 is, what kind of moments do you remember in your life? Question 2, what do you think about the past, the present, and the future? Question 3, what kind of advice would you give me for my life? And question 4, what do you think about death, and are you afraid of it? Now let's start with question 1. What kind of moments do you remember in your life? Here, of course, I will get to hear stories which I will keep in my heart forever. Often the stories are short, taken out of an ordinary day, and even though I have heard some of these stories a long time ago, I still remember them. Why? Because that is what our life is all about, these moments. Do you still have the time to see these moments? Please, please don't rush past them. Be aware that one day, when you are an older woman or an older man, that you will spend all day long remembering those moments. And this will be the biggest part of your day, thinking about your past. Yes, because that is something I have learned, that one day our past will be very important, that it will be the most enjoyable activity to do, to travel back into your past, thinking about your life, thinking about everything you have experienced, thinking about moments with your family and your friends, and thinking about what you have done. Often, they tell me about the moment they fell in love, and I love love stories. Let's share two of the memorable moments stories. One sweet woman told me that in the 30s it wasn't simple to make a date with the one you loved, so you would have to do it in secret. But you wouldn't just go to one another and decide this, even this you would have to do secretly. So they decided that the sign would be to wave with the hand. And she still sees herself waving with the hand and feeling the excitement to know that soon they would meet again. 40 years later, she still thinks about these moments when she was waving her hand. Another love story is how my grandma tried to get the attention of this good-looking man, which was my granddad. She was so impressed by him because he was the only one wearing a hat at this time, and it was a very elegant man. But he never looked at her. So one day, she saw him coming on the street, and she was sitting in front of where she lived. He came nearer and closer, and then she faked a cramp in her leg, stretched out her leg, and there he fell over it. And that is how she got his attention. Of course, there are also very, very sad moments I will get to hear. Moments of loss, moments of fear, moments of feeling alone. But that is where the next life advice will come, which I have heard plenty of times. Be aware of the good moments in life and take care of them. The bad moments are there as well, and from them we will learn a lot. But in the end, when we want to remember the good ones. So take care of them, and always know that all of the moments are yours. Either they will make you happy, or they will make you grow. Appreciate them all, and try to live a life that you will not have any regrets in the end. Let's come to question number 2. What do you think about the past, the present, and the future? As I said, they love to talk about the past because that is the time era which will become very big, and most of the focus is on the past because it's almost the only thing which is left. Or maybe it feels like this. The present is seen very different. It depends on how they're living it. If they are healthy, if they are alone, if they are in a good older people's home or rather abandoned. All my visits to all these people have made me very thoughtful about how I would like to grow old. I have experienced very sad moments, which made me realize how important it is not to forget these people, to listen to them, to visit them, to talk to them, to touch them, and to ask them questions. I mean, we can learn so much from them. I mean, they have seen it all. They know a lot more than what we think. And I would love to give them some good moments, even in the present time. But it breaks my heart to hear, as one elderly said, that sometimes he would just lie there on his bed staring at the ceiling, hoping that the time will pass. Personally, I will do my best to visit older people more often, even if they are strangers to me, but I will not allow myself to forget these people. When I ask them about the future, many of them start to laugh, like, but we don't have any future left. There is no future for us. And I will tell them that I believe that this isn't true. I tell them that they also have a future, tomorrow, next week, and that they could have something they could longing for. But to summarize this question, the past is huge. And remember that your present time, my dear listener, is what one day will be your past. So think about it, how you are spending your present time, and keep on creating and observing those moments you will one day remember. The present will be different in a high age, and the future will be very small. I mean, isn't life interesting? Isn't it captivating? Isn't it exciting? Well, I think so. But now let's come to question number 3. What kind of advice would you give me for my life? Often I hear, carpe diem, seize the day, take care of the moments you are experiencing. Someone also once told me never to stop playing, singing, and dancing. And lately, I've heard a few times the advice not to spend too much time with the machines. And what they mean are our devices. Some of the elderly people believe that we will one day regret this. So then I asked, but if it is something which will help us to live a better life? Then they looked at me and said, oh, but that is good. And one woman said, even Pokemon was good. I said, why? She said, because the people started to move again, which I thought was really funny. I thought it was funny that she knew even was what Pokemon was. The last question isn't always easy to pose. Question 4. What do you think about death, and are you afraid of it? But most of them are not that worried about death. They take one day after another. Some of them are even waiting for death to come. Most were concerned about the impact on those left behind. They hope that they can cope. And I remember this quote: I am looking forward, when I am done on this earth, to a deep, long sleep, such as we crave every night when we go to our beds. Who knows what comes after? And one day I found a post that someone wrote about death. Let me read it to you. We do it like everyone else. We die. When I was younger, my mom told me something very profound. Honey, if you live long enough, everyone dies. What she actually meant was that your peer groups and friends die at an increasing rate as you age. I've begun to experience that in the last 8 years. I have lost track of how many I have lost. That's life. So here's the secret. The first death of someone close to us can often be very hard. The second as well. After the 10th or the 15th, it gets a bit easier. Hope this helps. End of the post. As my grandma says, I'm not afraid of death. That is the only thing we know for sure when we are born, that we will die. Maybe tomorrow, maybe next week, maybe next month. And if you are lucky enough, you can even get 95 years old. By the way, if you want to see my grandma, she's on my vlog on the YouTube channel where I talk about this topic. And she's also saying in there that she really wants to get 100 years old. And she says it like a bit like this: 100 years, I'm gonna get bloody well. Now, my dear listener out there, maybe this episode was a journey for you, a journey to the future, imagining yourself when you get old, or being aware how important it is to celebrate the moments we are experiencing, to seek a life where we will have no regrets. And yes, maybe you thought about death as well, because that was all in this episode. But hopefully you will think about the elderly people around you. That would be great. I would be so happy if this episode has waken up a curiosity to spend more time with the older people. Because they are great. Because we can learn so much from them. And we can also give them something. A bit of love. And we're gonna laugh. I want to end this episode with this story. When we were at this hen's party in the oldest people's home in Sweden, I observed a very touching moment. That was when the woman who was so kind to accept me there and who invited me, Anneli, the one with a huge heart and the one organizing all those events for the elderly. She walked past a sitting woman and for a moment she sat on her lap. A few seconds, and the elderly woman laughed, hugged her from behind, and said, "That has been long ago that I have been near someone like this." It was so touching, and I told myself, I'm gonna touch older people more often, just to put my hand on someone's hand, or to hug them. If you still have some elderly people around you, this might be something you could do as well. And I'm sure you would give this person a moment to remember. And as we know, that is what we will remember, these moments. All the best to you out there, and I'll be back in your ear next week again. And again, thank you for listening to my work and my thoughts, and please feel free to share the podcast if you like it. Now take care and enjoy the time you still have. Let's go and celebrate. Bye.